Hi, I'm Bill O'Reilly. Thanks for watching us tonight. President Obama and the American media. That is the subject of this evening's Talking Points memo. Last night on The Factor, Bernie Goldberg said this about the political media and President Obama.
So they drooled all over him 4 years ago, and all they could find now are gaps in Romney's trip. Look, obviously, journalists are Barack Obama's most loyal base. They will not abandon him, and they've got too much invested in him.
And what Bernie says is true. Here's the backup. 2004, Kerry versus Bush. University of Connecticut study of 300 journalists nationwide found 52% supported Kerry, just 19% favored Bush. 2007, the Pew Research Center did a survey of 585 journalists. It found 32% of them described themselves as liberal. 8% say they're conservative. The rest claim to be moderate. In 2008, another Pew survey assessed the tone of the presidential campaign between Barack Obama and John McCain. It found that fewer than a third of the stories about Mr. Obama were negative, while more than half the stories about John McCain cast him in a negative light, were negative. Even worse, less than 20% of the stories about Senator McCain, a certified war hero, were positive, less than 20%. More than 33% of the reports on Mr. Obama were favorable. So you can see the press in America clearly favors a more liberal candidate and has for decades. Now, what does this mean in the upcoming election? Well, first of all, it gives the Democrats a major advantage because their agenda, whether it's bashing Mitt Romney or promoting the president, will be covered far more extensively than the Republican agenda. Second, stories that make the president look bad will be played down in the national press, while anything Mitt Romney does will be described as a gaffe, a mistake, or just plain dumb. The cumulative effect of this will be to influence voters who do not pay attention. Those of you who watch The Factor and listen closely to what the candidates are saying will not likely be influenced by the media. We know that. But the folks who spend most of their time in recreational pursuits could be very much influenced by the pro-Obama coverage they hear here and there. Talking Points estimates that will give the president about 3 or 4% of the popular vote. Finally, why are most journalists liberal? Peer pressure, the main reason. Bernie Goldberg and I worked at CBS News at the same time, and if you were not politically correct, if you were traditional, you were suspect in the eyes of management, and that included Dan Rather. When I worked at ABC News, things weren't as bad because Peter Jennings did not like blatant partisanship, although he himself was a liberal thinker. So in order to prosper in their careers, many journalists believe they have to toe the Liberal Party line. The second thing is they want to toe the Liberal Party line because a lot of journalists are educated in liberal universities and brought up in liberal environments. Not a lot of Levittown or Abilene guys in the national press. No spin. And that's a memo. Now for the top story tonight, reaction joining us from Washington, Shira Toeplitz, who writes for Roll Call, a political paper, and from Charlottesville, Virginia, Dr. Larry Sabato, who teaches politics at the university there. So where am I going wrong, Dr. Sabato?
Well, Bill, there's no question that there is a lot of bias in the media. There's no question that by a very wide margin, the key editors and reporters and producers vote for Democratic candidates. But I think you exaggerate the impact they have on the, quote, undecided voters. Number one, there aren't that many undecided voters in a year like this. You know, I would argue, Bill, that about 95% of the people who will actually show up in November have already decided for whom they'll vote.
12% seems to be the number we're seeing in the weekly polling. 12% remain undecided. And as Bernie Goldberg says, Ms. Toeplitz, those people shouldn't be allowed to vote. Because if you don't know, the difference is so stark between the president and Mitt Romney. If you don't know by now, Goldberg doesn't want you to be able to vote, all right? You're too dumb. But it's about 12%. But I agree with Dr. Sabato in the sense that there aren't going to be as many undecideds this time around. But those who are, you know, immersed in the internet culture, gaming, sports, or whatever, they're hearing snatches, and it's all pro-Obama from the national press.
I think independent voters who are still independent and who are undecided right now probably aren't listening to these news reports at all. I think they're zoned out. When I go on the trail and I talk to women in particular, they can't even name some of the people up for vice president. They're just that much tuned out about it. I think we can't underestimate how much how long these voters wait just until the final 2 weeks typically to make a decision.
Okay, but those voters, their vote counts as much as your vote or my vote or Dr. Sabato's vote. So what I'm saying to you is I think you're absolutely right, that there are a number of Americans in the millions that basically aren't paying attention. It's boring to them. It doesn't speak to them, so they don't want to pay attention. In the last 2 weeks, they'll dial in. But they do catch snatches of this and that. They do catch, you know, President Obama, and he's still a charismatic, cool guy, and Mitt Romney's this dunderhead rich guy, and he just wants to take money away from the poor people and give it to the rich people. And the Democrats play to that. They play to the media, Dr. Sabato. You know they do. And the media runs with whatever the Democrats give them without a lot of scrutiny. Not everybody. There are some excellent reporters in every concern, every one, all right? But the majority of them, they basically, look, you know, Romney's a rich guy and Obama's a cool guy, and that's the way it's coming down again. Am I wrong on that?
Well, look, some of that's true. I'm not going to argue with all that, Bill. But I think, again, you are ignoring, and I think Shira's ignoring the fact that many of those people she's interviewing and you're interviewing who don't know where they stand right now and don't know anything about politics, they're not going to vote. Tens of millions of Americans won't show up in November, won't cast a ballot. Luckily, I think many of them are the people who know the least.
Well, we think
the independents who know the least don't vote.
We estimate 55% of the registered voters will turn out. 55%, between 55 and 60%, which is a lot. I mean, that's not a bad turnout. But I do believe that it gives the media bias toward President Obama, gives him about 2 to 3% of the popular vote. Am I wrong on that, Shira?
I don't know if I would calculate it 2 to 3%. I think it's really hard to put a specific number to it. I think what you can look at is in these swing states and where voters are getting a lot of their information. And that has really changed over the last couple cycles. First, specifically to this cycle, you have an influx of television ads and a lot of negative advertisements way earlier than we usually have. And voters are looking at that too. Just as much as a voter turns on the TV and sees a quick news clip or picks up the paper and sees a story on page 1, they're also watching a television advertisement. And these are also a source of information for a lot of voters.
That's true.
So
I mean, in Ohio, we're seeing those ads hurt Sherrod Brown, the liberal senator there. Doctor, do you teach in summer classes at Charlottesville? You teach anything this year, in the summer?
Absolutely. Okay. Always teach.
Okay. So you're teaching, right? So these zombie kids walk in who are paying a lot of money to go to the university, all right? And then they were all for Obama, most of them, I would imagine. And do you ever ask them why they're for Obama? Because they don't know anything. You know how stupid college kids are. They don't know anything.
Well,
so why are they for Obama? For what reason?
No. Well, first of all, things have changed over the past 4 years. You're going to see in November a smaller percentage of young people voting for Obama, and frankly, I think a lower turnout of young people.
Why?
You don't have the same excitement you
that?
had 4 years ago. What's that?
Why are we going to see that?
Why are we going to see that?
Yeah.
Well, because unemployment's up, for one thing.
All right, so the economy is going to... Okay. But why? Tell me why the college students are so pro-Obama, big on Obama. Why?
Well, because I think they took to the cool image of Obama 4 years ago.
And where did that image come from? Who brought the college kids that image?
Well, part of it was the media. Part of it was the way they grew up, the values that they adopted when they were growing up.
But you hit it. Look, the media anointed him the cool guy. They made him. They gave him the image.
Yeah, Bill, when we were growing up, we had 3 networks with the same stories presented in the same order by the same kind of people.
Look, Cronkite, we
have
all know
a multiplicity.
We all know
now
that
have a multiplicity of sources.
We all know now that Cronkite was a raving liberal. We all know that. But he hid it. He hid it. They don't hide it anymore. All right, very interesting debate, you guys.
I don't know how well he hit it. Look, you've got, hey, how about Fox News? How about all these blogs and news organizations?
It's like
people self-select news organizations.
It's like 10 to 1. And we're fair here. I mean, I don't think we're promoting Mitt Romney on this network. There might be a few people who are, but certainly our hard news guys aren't. All right, guys, I got to run. Thanks. Good debate. Next on the rundown, President Obama says Mitt Romney wants to raise taxes on the middle class and give the money to the wealthy. Kind of income redistribution in reverse. Crowley and Combs, moments away.